we've heard her several times. Judy and I have always loved her. We used her a lot during our ministerial training and through many, many talks. She's been with us, and I love this song, and I want to just repeat these words and think about this, just take it in. Just take a moment and really think. Be still. Stay here. Don't move. Give God a chance to find you. I love that. I love that. See, maybe when we're still enough, long enough, God is trying to find us. The truth is, God knows where we are. It's more of us being able to open to that power of love, to that power of God. When we're still enough, see, God finds us then. We're open and we feel that power of God, And we need to be open and receptive. And today, that's what I want to talk about. Just a simple talk, and it won't be too long, so we can get ready for our picnic here that we have coming up. But I think the most important thing I want to say to you is that you are connected to an incredible power, the power of love that is in every one of us. And the more that we're quiet, the more that we're open, the more that we stop and listen, the more that we feel that power moves through each and every one of us. See, and God can't help but find us, right? When we're open. What that really means is, since we don't really believe there's a God out there and we're in here, we believe that God is in here. It means that we let go of that chatter and open to that space that God is, that space that love is, the space that source is. I'm talking today about free falling, and I'm thinking to myself, that's the feeling that I get when I think about falling into grace. It was beautiful that you talked about grace today, because that's what I want to talk about too, is being able to be quiet enough to fall back where falling means there's no control, right? You're not there trying to control everything. You are falling back into that infinite field of grace, that power of love. You're falling into it. See, this whole month we're talking about keeping our eye on what doesn't change. Because honestly, everything changes, doesn't it? Here on the physical, just take a look at your face, look at your body, take a look at your clothes. Everything changes. That's physical. What did I say? That was so funny. The face. Yeah. I was taking a look at my face today in the mirror and I go, wow. It's like things really shift, right? And that's the truth. Everything shifts, right? From our health. And so what our great master teachers always say is, keep your eye on that which doesn't change, right? So what is that doesn't change? Who knows? Tell me. Yeah, or love. See, I call God love. Love doesn't change, and that's inside of you, and that's who you really are. That doesn't change at all. And I think it's Deepak Chopra, Judy, that says something about, when we have our allegiance to that which doesn't change, then everything changes, right? So we know who we really are when we have our allegiance on that power of love. It doesn't mean that we don't attend to the physical. We need to, but the physical will soon be gone, and then this power of love will be left, and that's who we really are, But we have to be able to fall back into that grace, and we have to be able to be quiet enough to let God find us, or let us find God. And I'm reminded of this story, and I looked for it because I remembered it, and I looked all over the internet, and finally it popped up again. It's so funny how that does that. But it goes like this. There were a group of European missionaries serving in Africa. This is a true story, about 100 years ago. And the missionaries asked a tribe of Africans to help them carry these supplies to a distant station. The villagers went at a really slow pace, and then slower than what the missionaries wanted them to do, the travelers did. So after 2 days or so, they pushed them to go faster, And on day 3, the group went twice as far as they did on day 2. And then around the campfire that evening, the missionaries congratulated themselves for being great leaders. Then on day 4, the workers just stopped. They wouldn't budge. And when they were asked what's wrong, They said, we can't go any further today. Why not? Everything appears well. And the African said, yes, but we went so quickly yesterday that we must wait now for our souls to catch up. That's what I'm talking about. I love that. We went too fast, and now our souls need to be with us. They need to catch up. And I'm talking today not mainly about that we have so much to do, because that's true. We are moving in the physical world. But I'm talking about the mental chatter that we have going on. And it's time for me, to really look at that, and probably you too, of how much we have going on in our head. And it's time to drop to our heart and let our soul catch up. Let God find us. The same thing that I'm talking about here. So I want to ask you, is it time in your life that your soul catches up? That you move and live and have your being in your soul. Right? So it's not just your body out there doing everything without this power behind you. Because when you have this power of love in you, when you have that power, boy, you move with that power. You talk with that power. You connect with that power. And it changes how you relate to people. It changes how you relate to your family, to the world. You need that power, you guys. We all need it to change the world. The more people that recognize that power, the more faster this world will shift. And I think right now that's a really, really good thing, So the things that cannot change, right? The things that cannot change is the power of God in you. The power of love in you. And another thing that cannot change is that you are connected to God. You're connected to that power. You're not all God. You're not all spirit. But you're connected. And when we let go, we find it. We find it. And what this is Judy talked about it in her meditation. It was spiritual surrender. It's a surrender. It's a falling back. It's a loss of control. And you fall into grace. We had the great gift of meeting Adi Ashanti. We brought him to Unity, didn't we? Years and years ago when we met him. And he's a great teacher. And he has a book called Falling into Grace. And that's what this whole idea is about. And I want to talk a little bit about what grace is and how, when I go like this, I'm thinking of falling back, right? Somebody catching me and, into this field of grace. I love that. So, and I think how many times in your life have you tried to solve stuff, right? Over and over and over, and it just gets harder. You're trying to manage all these balls and stuff in the air. And finally there comes a time when you just have to admit how darn powerless that we are. You just can't do it, so you just stop. You just stop. And when you stop, you take a breath, you stay here, don't move, let God find you, and that's where it begins. That's where it begins. And when you say what begins, awareness begins. Your awareness, you step back and you see it all. And you're going, wow, it feels different. That's how we know that we're connected to God. It feels different when grace moves through us. It feels different than when we're trying to run the show. So important. It feels different when we're running the show or when our higher angels are running the show. So you can ask yourself anytime through the day, through anything you're doing, who's running the show here? And when you're not at ease, when there's tension going around, you know to take a breath, stop, let your soul catch up. Spiritual surrender, falling into grace. It's all the same thing. And it starts with taking a breath. And that's your connection to God. So what's grace? Grace is that which has the capacity to open our heart and change our perception about life. Because it changes everything. A lot of times I say, this changes everything. That's the truth. It changes the way that you see things when your perception opens, when your heart opens, when you drop from your head and all the chatter to this incredible power of the heart. We live in this illusion of control. We think that we got it all, that we can do it, that we can do it. And then Adi Ashanti says that when we hand it over, we find ourselves free falling in to grace, to clarity, to openness. So when you don't know what the heck's going on in your life, all this stuff going on, I can't figure it out, it's time to fall into grace. It's time to get some clarity. And it's easy enough to do. It's just that we make it hard. But it's pretty simple. It's simple enough. You just breathe. You connect, and you know that there's something deep inside of you that is so much more powerful than you could ever imagine. You know? And then once we feel that, and I don't know, I'm sure you've had these moments where you feel this clarity and this power of grace. I think, Peter, we talked about it a little bit this morning. It says, you know, we have these experiences. And when we know that there's something bigger than us, we start to see everything as connected. We start to see that grace is all around us. It's that infinite field that Judy mentioned in the meditation. We live in a connected, infinite field where we're connected to each other. That you know, we can feel each other. That this energy between us shifts. You know, it's such a powerful idea, and I don't really even have the words to articulate it, but this idea that you can sit right next to somebody. I sat next to somebody, it was about a week ago when I had this person was going through a really hard time, very, very traumatic experience, and was actually in this process of crying and arching her back and on the floor, and it was a grief, really incredible grief. I'm not talking about Judy here, but it was this grief that she was going through. It could have been, yeah, absolutely. And I, was called actually to be able to be with this person. So I was a little nervous to walk in, and I didn't know her. And I sat next to her. She was on the floor, and I sat by her, but I didn't want to touch her, right? Because she's on the floor, right? And she's crying, and she's just, I just didn't know quite what to do. But I sat down on the floor, and I prayed inside. I didn't pray out loud. I just prayed. And I felt the energy start to move, and I saw her start to soften, She was grieving, and she looked at me, and I looked at her, and there was a really neat connection. But I guess the idea of why I told you that is that any of us can do that if we are centered in prayer, if we are fallen back, if we have our souls with us, is that we can sit by somebody and ease their pain, right? Do you understand what I'm saying? Is that you are an energy field, and so are they, and when you sit with somebody, they can feel your energy, and right now, you guys, the world needs that energy, right? So it's up to you, when stuff's going on that doesn't feel like that, the negatives of the world. If you can stay prayed up, I guess is what I call it, Judy calls it that too. If you can stay fallen back, if you can stay, whatever I'm talking about today, the grace, stay in that field of grace, you can change things. That's the call, that you can change things. And it's big. It's the power of love that I'm talking about. That power. It seems like it always falls back to love, doesn't it? That's what I end up talking about, because that's God. That's who we are, So I'm going to ask you right now, can you trust? Can you really trust that grace is operating in your life? That the power of grace is operating in your life, even when it doesn't feel like it. That's the hard part. See, sometimes it doesn't feel like it. But it is. Grace is always there. Always there for us. It's within all people, and it's within all situations. The power of grace is everywhere. We just need to recognize it. We just need to recognize it. See, when I say have trust and have faith that it's there, I'm not talking about denying that you have problems. Okay, we got problems. We got stuff. We got lots going on. It just means that we can see beyond it, that we can open our perception and know that there's more. So whatever's going on in your life, know there's more. Or more beauty, more love, more wisdom, more intelligence, more balance than you could ever imagine is within you. Because the power of the universe is within you. That's powerful. That's so powerful. You are a vibrating, field of love And love has intelligence in it. It's not this namby-pamby, wait, nephew, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the power of intelligence. And when you tap into it, there isn't anything that can stop you. You can move mountains. So I'm asking you to trust that life can change you, that this field of grace can change your life. It's important. It gives us confidence. You can walk in confidence. You can let go of stress, whatever is wrong with you, whatever you feel like is wrong with you. Trust it. Trust in that power. See? Kirtana's song has such profound words. I'm gonna tell you the things that, the 3 things she said that I love. She says, what good does it do to rail against what is? Wow. Don't rail against what is. It is. It is what it is, right? Our job is to move beyond that. She says, what good does it do to cling to the past? Because when we do, we miss what is here right now. When we're thinking about what we should have done or what we got to do, or what happened, instead of being right here, we miss the power of love. Because the power of God and the power of love is only in the now moment. And that means it's right here, right now. It isn't in our head thinking about it. That's why I can talk here, right? I can tell you all this stuff, but if you're just hearing it in the head, and if I'm just telling you something I read, it's from here. But if I'm feeling it and it comes from my heart, you know, that makes all the difference in the world. And if you're receiving it from the power of your heart, then it makes all the difference in the world. See, where we operate makes all the difference in the world. Are we operating from our head? Are we operating from our heart? You know, so important. So what's Kirtana tell us? She says, okay, trust the mystery. Just trust. We don't know a lot. But God, we don't know anything. We don't. We don't know anything. I think that was my credo. Yours was, if I'm lifted, let all others be lifted up. That was Judy's when we were in ministerial school, right? Mine was trust the mystery, because I didn't know what the heck was going on, you know. I barely passed my Bible class. But, you know, I think you had to help me with that one, you know. But you know what? It didn't matter to me. It didn't matter, because I had it here, right? You know, I didn't need to know all that. You know, what I knew was, you know, that the power of love worked in my life, you know. So what is she saying is, trust this mystery. She is saying, be still. Stay here. Don't move. And give God a chance to find you. Say that with me. Be still. Be still. Stay here. Stay here. Don't move. Don't move. And give God a chance to love you. Actually, it's to find you, but I like to love you, so that works too. So I'm going to close, since we have our picnic, with this old Sufi story about a woman who was walking through the mountains, and she finds this beautiful precious stone, and she puts it into her little basket. And she's walking away, and then she runs into a man who comes up to her and says, you know, he says, wait just a second. Then a fellow traveler sees her and asks her if she has something to eat. Okay, so he asked her for something to eat. So she reaches into her bag, and he sees this stone, this precious stone, and he says, I think I'll have that instead. So she gives it to him, right? She gives it to him, and he takes off, and he runs off with this precious stone. And then all of a sudden, as he runs, he stops. He just stops, and he looks back for a minute, and then he comes back to the lady, and here's what he says to her. I'm going to give you back the stone in the hopes that you will give to me that which is much more precious than the stone. I want what it is that enabled you to give me the stone. Are you following me? Yes. Okay, so the story goes on to ask, what does that woman have that enables her to be able to give up that stone? So a lot of people, you know, said kindness, and it's, you know, compassion and stuff. But I don't think so. See, I think what you have to have is you have to live in that field of grace, right? You have to be able to have the trust that that's not important. What's important is here. So it's all of it. It is compassion and stuff, but it's trust that what's important in your life. Her allegiance was to the love within her, to the field of grace, you know? She kept her eye on what doesn't change. She kept her eye on the Spirit of God, on the Spirit of love within her. So one more time, I'm going to have you say this, and then we are going to close for a picnic. Be still.
Be still.
Stay here.
Stay here.
Don't move.
Don't move.
And give God a chance to find you.
Give God a chance to find you.
All right, so we've come to the time of our closing. Repeat after me. Peace in my heart.
Peace in my heart.
Peace in my family.
Peace in my family.
Peace in my community.
Peace in my community.
And peace in the world.
Peace in the world.
Thank you guys for joining us. Join us for the picnic.